call this meeting to order. Stand.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda, public hearing. Liquor license for the Waldo Theater. Somebody would like to make the motion to open up the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? First, public comments.
So this is an application to the state of Maine for a wine and beer license. And this is for the Waldo Theater, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And they are seeking approval to sell wine and beer on the premises of the Waldo Theater. And in accordance with regulations required by the state, concerts and plays will be the primary events that they would plan to have sales. And the police department has no complaint about the Waldo Theater.
No citizens' comments. Does the select board have any comments?
Just a question, wasn't the Waldo at one time serving food? I don't know about drink, but certainly didn't they serve food in there? Is there sort of a restaurant attached to it in some
Carrie's-
way?
I think Carrie's saying yes. You're muted.
Yes, hi everyone. Hi, thanks for having me. Yes, maybe back in the 80s, there was a tavern attached to the Waldo that had that served food. I don't know if they had a liquor license or if they served beer and wine, but I know that they did serve food. There was a cafe.
Thank you.
Earlier than the 80s.
Anybody else on the select board have any questions? Comments?
I think it's all good.
Yes, somebody wants to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I
So
have
moved.
Just one question. Does this include the patio outside at all?
I don't believe we've put in for that. No, it's under the, it's indoors. I think that would be a separate license if we wanted to have anything outdoors, in which case we'd have to do, fence off an area for liquor to be or alcohol to be consumed within that perimeter, and that's not underneath this
Remember on
application.
opening night, there was a certain meeting held out there where everybody thought that would be a lovely place to be able to sit and have beverages.
I can see us utilizing that patio space at some point for something like that, but not right now, and that's not what this application is for.
Thank you.
And Bob, did you make that motion?
Yes, I made the motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second? I second that. All those in favor? Would somebody like to make a motion to act on this application?
I move we approve the application.
Liquor license for Waldo Theater. Is there a second? All those in favor? Any adjustments to the agenda? Any more?
None that I know.
Bob,
No, Hampton.
any citizens' comments? None. Bob, select board comments.
Yes. Sorry. I want to thank, and I never know how to pronounce the name of this company. I'm embarrassed to say it, but it's the William Revase Real Estate Company. Is that right? Nobody's correcting me.
And I always say Ravis, but
Ravis,
but I
thank
read
you.
it to myself, so I don't
No,
know
that
if that's
sounds good to
correct.
me. William
I have
Ravis.
No idea.
They have stepped up big time to support Oktoberfest. They're going to have 6 people from their office volunteering with some help with the setup, especially during the festivities on Saturday. And by the way, it's this Saturday, October 2nd, and it's supposed to be a nice day. So a big thank you to them. That's Tracy and Jessica Pooley, Tabitha, John, Cindy, and Tiffany. We're all going to be there to help out. The library's Great Art for Great Reads online auction is active. Kyle's got something in that auction, a beautiful photograph of an eagle on a river. It's unbelievable. I hope I hope people go to that site and bid often. That Minzer painting is up there, Julie. I don't think anybody's bid on it yet.
No, I actually was there yesterday to check it out. I checked out everything yesterday.
Yep.
You really should go and check it out.
Yeah.
If you're
In real
unsure,
life.
but in person,
Yeah.
the pictures just don't do justice.
Yeah.
I agree. If you go to the Waldeboro Library website, that's waldeborolibrary.org, you can click right to the Bidding Owl website and do the option. Just click View All in the side of the upper left quadrant or eighth of the screen, and everything will come down and you can see everything that's available.
It's just not the same watching Mark Gifford and Paul and Kyle carry paintings up.
I
for you
know.
to look at.
That's true.
Yeah, I
It
know.
just doesn't have the same paint the town flavor.
Okay, that's all I have.
Colonel? The only thing I have is that I was nominated by Jan Mincy to the Lincoln County Budget Committee, and somehow they accepted that nomination. And I've been to 2 meetings. The large work meeting is going to be on the 8th of October at 9 a.m. And solicit any help you can give me from your past experience of what would, so I could be and do what is right.
Dan?
Well, I must say he accepted graciously. It was nice. It was a nice little informal, nice meeting, I thought. I always enjoyed those people, so that was nice. The only thing I was gonna say was to support Oktoberfest. But Bob's already hit on that, so October 2nd.
So it's good to have
What
that
are the
additional
times again?
support. Sorry, from 11 to 3.
Okay, that's.
Good
what I thought.
point. Thank you.
11 to 3.
Yep.
Right, Cider Hill.
Yep,
That's good. Have lunch and all.
and admission is free.
Will?
Yeah, I was gonna mention Oktoberfest too. So we didn't have Waldeboro Day this year again, so it'd be a great opportunity for the community to get together. And a brief update on Public Works. They're finishing up Cassiner Road, preparation of paving. And then they're gonna be moving down to Back Cove to do some ditching down there and continue getting rid of beaver dams, which have been a big problem this year. So that's it for me.
Oh, me next. So a couple of things. We just received a notice, and I was hoping, Bob, you were going to cover this in your report, but MRC sent us a notice.
Yes, they did.
And basically what they're asking for is to, what's that called, Bob?
I can help.
I'm blanking. Help
Okay.
explain it to us.
What's called a fundamental matter has come before the MRC board and the communities that participate in getting rid of their garbage through the municipal review committee. What the MRC is asking for from the communities is the authority to terminate the lease agreement with Coastal Resources of Maine, which is the operator of and owner of the plant. This is a strategic move in order to allow the board to act promptly if the need to terminate arises. It's winter's coming. It's going to get cold in that facility again. And we've actually, the MRC's actually gone out for requests for proposals, which will be coming in on September 30th. I mean, like the day after tomorrow. And so it could be necessary in order for some of those proposals to go forward to terminate that lease, to set the stage for allowing other alternatives to come forward. We're still waiting for a financing proposal, firm financing proposal from DTE. They provided a term sheet and they're still working on finalizing financial arrangements. So that's still out there, but the MRC has waited long enough for this to be put to bed, and it hasn't been. So actions are being taken with other parties who are qualified to run the plant and operate that plant to get it up and operating again. At the end of the day, the decision is the bondholders. The MRC doesn't own the plant, but we certainly have a say in who owns the lease. And that's the reason for that notice you received. Thank you for,
Thank you.
Yep.
But we just got it today and I wanted to make sure everybody's clear of that. Two other things. As everybody knows, we were working on the community center and Lincoln Health up behind our existing ball fields off of Main Street. So, there's wetlands there. And we are waiting for the state to come down. We requested the DEP to come down. We had a report done. There are indeed wetlands there. So we are waiting for the state DEP. I'm not going to call them an inspector, but one of their experts to come down and review the site with us. In the meantime, in case that doesn't go well, and it, based on the report, does not,
That was already done in 2000.
well,
Those old wetlands were already delineated.
but they've changed a little bit.
Yep.
It had
After a certain period of
after a
time.
certain period of time. We didn't really have a choice. So I don't know how, it didn't look good from me reading the report, but we've asked, but they did not tell us that it's a total no. Our report did not say that it's a total no, but in my conversation, it would be costly for us to build on it because we would have to essentially pay to build on the land. The first thing they said is back when we were doing this originally is when we should have completed the wetlands process. So that being said, we've been exploring alternative locations for both the community center and Lincoln Health. So we are exploring other alternatives of municipally owned land for those two projects. And I would say that, Max, when did the gentleman from DEP said he would be down shortly, correct? He talked to our engineering firm and they were planning a visit, I believe, at the end of September, early October. So the conditions on site have changed since 2000. What year did you just quote?
Well, it's 2000.
2000.
He did an assessment of that place. What's in the office?
Yeah.
It's a reminder.
Yeah, we tried to use that one again. They wouldn't let us. And apparently conditions have changed. So,
I think it's still actually kind of the same, actually, I think. It wasn't really good at the time.
but the DEP regulations have changed since then too. So unfortunately, that's where we stand with that project, but we are looking at alternatives and we are confirming. That's why we asked the DEP to come down and confirm that. So we are looking at other sites.
No opportunity for mitigation.
That's what we'll find out when the DEP comes down. He and our engineer had discussions. They presented two different options, not saying it couldn't be done, it's just the expense of doing it. And Max, do you remember what the cost per acre is? It was well over $200,000 to purchase the right to build.
And they had a certain amount of the 20,000 square feet. I think it's damn bad.
And it's similar, and that's part of the issue is we really would like the DEP to come down and have an actual conversation with us, because even when we talked to the engineer, he said, you know, because we obviously had the report that was done. And that company's gone and a new one's taken over from what we originally used, but they said, yeah, this probably should have been something, you know, had you done it, but again, 21 years later, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback. So 21 years, you don't realize how quick the time goes. That would be my sad news about that, but I'm still remaining optimistic, but we have had conversations with the health about alternative sites in town, Bedford town. Because it is an important project, both for health-wise, economically, for our community.
Anybody get any questions? So entertain a motion for consent calendar to approve.
I move we approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second? Any discussion? No correspondence? All those in favor? New business, road request. Would that be Max? No, no, I was just talking. I don't know what that.
Light Farm Road. The intersection to it would be right around 192 Cross Street. So this is off of Cross Street. And they would like Light, Light Farm Road. And it would be 57 Light Farm Road. A new address, and 131 Light Farm Road. The two new addresses that would. Back shows you where.
No, there's not a road there now, right?
Correct.
And they would like to build a road, is that what you're
I
saying?
believe so.
And that goes over to the pump, that's why I was looking.
Yeah, it's a proposed access road.
Sounds like the town is accepting the road.
We're not accepting the
No,
road, they're simply naming the road.
Yeah.
A private road being named.
Somebody like to make a motion on that? And we can discuss it.
I thought this was the road to the water company.
This one is, the black one is, they get another one right here.
Right, they don't want to come in the way. So when this was done for the
Oh, maybe I missed it.
water, it's, Paul, come look at this.
I thought it was what Will said.
Yeah,
So it is the,
yeah,
so it is the road that goes to the
That
pump
is.
house, because there's another farm road right here as well.
Yeah, because the dark rectangle, that's the Fish and Game Club on the corner.
right,
And then that road that goes down.
Right.
correct.
So they just want to rename the pump station road,
Mhm.
which has no name, I don't
But
believe.
you have to realize that we gained access to the property we own. So that would be they subdivided their property back there,
So technically, that's their road.
technically.
It's a right of way across.
Move the gate.
Mhm. We just moved the gate so they could get access, but they
Alright.
couldn't have access to the,
Because there's another
Right.
farm, says farm road right here by the barn.
Right.
So that's why I was confused.
Would there be any impact to the water company having to rename, readdress everything?
they didn't have an issue with it. They've been great, let me tell you. They relocated the gate, everything was
Oh, it's
done.
already done?
It's already done, yes.
I get you.
It's another one of those things that popped up when somebody came in and said, hey, we need the key for this gate. And we're like, wait, what? Again, there's something to be said about institutional knowledge. And luckily, we were able to ascertain that indeed they do. There was an agreement back when we.
So it's just
acquired
a
the
right of way
property.
across there, basically. Okay. So yeah, they have every right to that road.
They do.
It's a nice name.
Like the Light family
Light.
that you
Yeah.
had the egg farm on an older one. It's called that Light Farm.
Did you?
Yeah, it was
And it doesn't,
June.
nobody seemed to have any issue with it for
Fire department issues.
911.
So Kyle will follow up, make sure 911's all set.
Well, it's Daryl, actually.
Yeah.
Daryl's the addressing officer. He'll have to submit through E911 to establish the road.
All right, now I guess I'll entertain a motion for it.
I'd move acceptance of the name that's proposed, Light Farm Road.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any more discussion on it? All set, Will?
Yep.
Okay, you just had that look about you.
No, that's,
All those in favor? Conservation Committee request to name park located at 50 Kaler Corner Street.
I'm gonna turn that over to.
Yeah, about the last meeting, they, told the public on Facebook and brainstormed amongst ourselves to name it Madomic River Rest Area. And that seemed to be the choice overwhelmingly that the public was okay with, but if we want to discuss it,
Somebody just gonna make a,
it's already on Google Maps and everything else, so.
somebody wants to make a motion for it? Somebody like to make a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion?
We can
What was
have a
the
nice,
exact name of it?
Madomic River Rest Area.
it's gonna have a nice sign too, right?
So
Cool.
that's fine.
All those in favor? Cool. Discussion on EMS coverage and staffing. That would be you.
That's all, it seems to be
I
all I
don't see
do.
no EMS guys in the except for Kyle, which,
Well, both Kyle and
well, yes.
Paul are, and the reason is because I sent Richard home, because Richard's been at work quite a bit this week, so I made that executive decision. I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on where we are at with EMS staffing. So we are working hard to recruit people. We had an actual emergency services department head manager meeting that went well, talked about some different scenarios and things that we're going to try to do. But there's still this issue with the mandate. I still have 3 individuals with the vaccination mandate. And unfortunately, those 3 individuals make up at least at a minimum of 32 hours a week that they're devoting to Waldeboro EMS. And I don't want this to get into a political, this is not political to me, whether you're vaccinated or you're not. The politics of this does not matter to me. What matters to me is that, well, there's 3 things that matter. One is, what happens, I'm gonna lose 3 more, I'm gonna be down 3 more employees who essentially cover a full-time shift, 3 full-time shifts for me during the week to an already stressed department. I'm afraid we won't be able to answer and respond to calls. That being said, I need to alert people that we do not have people signed up for coverage Friday night or Saturday night. So do not be surprised if you do not see, don't be surprised if you do see an ambulance from another service entering town to answer those calls. But it is Tuesday and we do not have coverage for Friday night or Saturday night. We have drivers, but we do not have an EMT or medic. So do not be surprised. So that's what we face every week now. And we've had the conversations, and I should also mention that on Monday, a meeting was held between the directors of the services in Lincoln County. Booth Bay, Wiscasset, CLC, and Waldeboro. So they actually had a meeting, I think, well, it was actually yesterday. The days are running together. So that was, everybody's aware of it. Everybody's talking about it. There are shortages all over in EMS and medics. I also sent an email to the county planning to talk about ARPA funds for making sure that training is readily available for Lincoln County for EMTs and medics. They wanted ideas about what to spend it on. There is a avenue that touches every town that they could invest in is EMTs and medic training. So my number one concern is, are we going to be able to answer the call? Number 2 that plays into that is, so now I have this mandate. So I'm already short-staffed and there's going to be potentially 3 more people that I'm going to have to come when I need to let them go because they're not vaccinated. I have spent an inordinate amount of time, I'm going to say since August, trying to find the answer at the state level as to what is Plan B. And if you all watch the news, New York City is facing the same problem. And the New York governor said, call in the National Guard. And I said that back in August to several people on the state level, and I think they thought I was nuts. And it's possible. But the fact that nobody can tell me what Plan B is disturbing to me as a town manager. I have called the governor's office. I have been in contact with Tom Abello from the governor's office, who told me to contact the Maine EMS, and I contacted Sam Hurley of the Maine EMS. And although he listened, there's no Plan B. I went through the MMA, through Kate Dufour, who went to Shelley Pingree, who said, well, you need to go talk to the CDC and you need to talk to Maine State EMA. So I came back and said, hey, Kyle, who do you know at the Maine State EMA? And I'm glad you're here tonight. So what was the response you got?
Well, basically, I mean, I went directly through the counties, but, you know, basically since the beginning, EMAs haven't been involved in the whole COVID response. It's all been run out of the CDC. So it's just like, whatever, you guys gotta do what you gotta do. There's not a plan. There's no plan. There's no whatever.
So that was
We'll have
what,
to figure it out when the time comes. If the problem arrives on, whatever was it, October 15th, October, what's the date?
29th. The 29th.
So whatever, you know, is the governor gonna balk? Is she gonna, you know, release those at the end? Or will there be enough people that are, whatever?
So
Who knows? We're still a month away. From
So the EMA was a dead end. CDC has not returned any of my emails or my phone calls. Kate got back to me, Kate Dufour got back to me after talking to Shelley. So the CDC was a dead end, the EMA was a dead end. I went back to Kate. Well, you have to talk to Sam Hurley at Maine EMS. So I was back to where I started. And I called him last Wednesday and have not received a return phone call. I have come to the conclusion, and I have tried, and I will be honest, I started out reasonably calm. I feel like I'm the only one saying this is going to be an issue. I don't want to have to explain why I couldn't put a truck on the road to save somebody's life. And I understand I've got staffing issues, but it's only compounding a bad situation. And nobody can tell me, and nobody has the decency, and that's what bothers me the worst, is nobody has the decency to have a conversation. And now I'm just trying to scream it from the top of my lungs. Somebody in a position of power at the state has got to take this seriously. And I understand the position that the governor took. Well, okay, we'll get people vaccinated, and I understand that. But the reality is they do not have to deal on a day-to-day basis with making a schedule and answering calls. And I've gotten a little bit irritated in the fact, and they can tell it in the tone of my emails, nobody's going to listen until something bad happens. And my job as a town manager and my department head's job are to anticipate the bad things that can happen and prevent them. What they're doing though is my hands are tied. I cannot magically make appear licensed, vaccinated EMTs or medics. I can't do that. They are charging me essentially saying, you as a town have got to work around this. But there's no plan B. And I have to tell you, this is disheartening. There was a lot of things during COVID that I found disheartening, but this particular issue, this is a life and death issue. Somebody should at least have the decency to return an email, return a phone call, and have an intelligent conversation. Because this is going to be put at the feet of politicians. But it's going to be us dealing with it. And that's wrong. And I don't care what side, like I said, this isn't political, This is about good governance. Good governance means you can make decisions, but you're going to have a backup plan because somebody other than, you know, this town manager in Waldoboro, Maine had to think, what's plan B? What's plan B when this goes south and you've got people that are left hanging because there's nobody there to answer the phone call?
Do we buck the system?
Well, you can't buck the system because we can't transport without a license. You know,
So you're not gonna be transporting anyways, because you're not gonna have EMS guys to drive or take people to the hospital. So what's the difference?
it's,
We don't want to lose the opportunity when we do have people.
we don't want to lose the opportunity. And believe me, I am all for, you know, it's the first time in my career that, and I contacted MMA Legal. There's no religious exemptions. But yet the federal law is going to have religious exemption. So then come October 29th, I've had somebody apply for a religious exemption. Do I then have to fire somebody over religious reasons? I've never in my career I've always been told that's a no. And they're saying like, well, you know, the federal law isn't really in effect yet, but, you know, I mean, everybody can hear on the news that they're going to allow supposedly, you know, religious exemptions. I'm not prone to a lot of, I can be very dramatic at times, but this is serious. This is a serious business for serious people. And the fact that nobody can take the time to openly discuss this or have a discussion with a town that's asking for help repeatedly asking for help. There's something wrong. That's not good governance. And I am saddened. I'm saddened from the top down, and I'm saddened with the MMA. And, you know, I would love, and I said this to Kate Dufour, I would like, and I said it to the new director of the MMA, I would hope that my message with the amount of passion that I have for this would get through when the MMA talks to the governor's office every week. I would have thought that if Kate Dufour told Shelley Pingree, who is the right hand to the governor, that this is a serious life and death issue, that at least, well, not Shelley, it was Hannah. Hannah would have called our office, that Tom Abello would answer my email. I would think that somebody somewhere would say, you know what, even give me the benefit of the doubt. She might be a little out of, you know, a little normal, out of, what am I saying? A little, her methods might be a little bit out of unconventional, thank you. But it's an important message and somebody has to hear it. But that's where we're at. So I don't know what we're going to look like in 3 weeks. The schedule is looking, I talked to Richard this afternoon, beginning in October, it seems to be feeling a little bit better. We've got to get through this weekend. We put out to our team, our typical responders, that we made a decision to increase this weekend to $5 extra if you come and help answer calls, thinking it might attract some more people. And that's where we're at. All the towns are facing an increase. They have to. I also sent out, so everybody is aware, the town of Friendship and the town of Jefferson got their estimate for what it's going to cost to have our services, because if we have to go to a full-time employment model, they have to pay more money. So they were given that news. I know that Jefferson is discussing it Monday night, and I believe that Friendship has that on their next meeting, but I'm not sure what night that is. But things are changing, and they have to. We have to do what we have to do to provide the services to the public.
Yeah, Nick.
Go ahead, Paul.
This is spreading. The staffing issue is starting to affect the fire department, because a lot of the firefighters are the ones that are stepping up and filling these shifts. If they're on shift at EMS, it's now delaying our response because some of our key firefighters are now helping out on that side. So this is, and this is, when Julie says this is serious, this is widespread.
And we're gonna go into the police realm here now too. I sat in a meeting today with the chiefs of the 4 police departments in Lincoln County and the town managers. We had a serious discussion about staffing. We're down to other communities are also suffering. And so is the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department. And I gotta tell you, we have a serious crisis with all of our public safety in Lincoln County, in the state of Maine, and I think, it's not just here, it's all over. But people have to start being aware. There's significant changes coming to emergency services near you. And we have to be open and transparent about that. We're 2 officers down. On a daily basis, almost I get comments, somebody was speeding. And I understand speeding is a huge issue, but the workforce is tired. They're working hours that concern me, and that's EMS and police. And we have a responsibility, not only to the public, but also to the employees, and to make sure that they are not working beyond what they should be. And it's getting very hard. I can't manufacture certified police officers. Towns are paying significant sign-on bonuses, and they're not filling the positions. And we have to have a serious conversation. There is coverage issues in Lincoln County. And I might get a little bit of hot water for saying it, but there's coverage issues in Lincoln County, and I think people need to hear that and people need to understand that. We're at a crisis, and everybody wants to be, it's not that, well, no, it is. We're at that point. It's not coming, it's here, folks. And I know I'm getting, but it has to be said, because I don't want to have somebody come to me and say, why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you tell me that I might have to wait for an ambulance, that a CLC ambulance might be coming? I'm telling everybody, we've been talking about it. We had EMS here. We met with our police department. Paul just shared. And it's not just us. I don't want you to think it's just us. It's just that I think the appropriate action is to be proactive and transparent about it.
You have a recommendation?
So I have a recommendation. Well, I finished the RFP. I finished the RFP for Waldeboro for our services. I think we're doing everything we possibly can. We are talking to people. Richard's reaching out to people. I've reached out to people, at least for our own EMS issues. Our police issues, Chief Lash is working on it. We had a great meeting today. I think what we're learning is it shouldn't be the first time that EMS or police sit down with each other and have open and frank conversations. I think we have to start talking about these things regionally. Everybody felt better after we left. I'm not exactly sure what we accomplished, but we have to be honest.
What was the response from the county about using that federal money to?
They're still making up recommendations, I guess. I hear a lot of it. There are a lot of towns clamoring for broadband. Max and I talked about this. There's a lot of towns, who came to these meetings. We saw it here. To me, it's something that emergency services touch everybody. We just got on digital. Did anybody hear the 2 emergency service guys we had here tonight hear the new digital radio? I can actually understand what's being said.
The only one.
Okay, you're not liking it. Well, I could actually understand what was being, it seemed very loud and clear to me, which was a little bit maybe different for you guys. But we need to think about all our emergency services, and Lincoln County has to realize that that affects every town. You know, it's very hard to pick projects that are good for everybody, but we're in an emergency services crisis. I can't say it enough. We're in an emergency services crisis. I don't care if you're Waldoboro or Damascotta or Wiscasset, and I don't care if you are a town that doesn't have a police service or an ambulance service. All of this affects you. And the reason that the EMS service affects you is we are the agencies that transport you when you have an acute emergency to Maine Med. And if we can't do our transports because we're not staffed, you might live in a town that's not serviced by, you know, your own ambulance, but it's going to reach you. It's going to have far-reaching effects. And that is the end of my. It's not a rant. It's a, and I know it's coming off like a rant, but I am terribly frustrated and saddened by the lack of
Response.
and the lack of urgency. And I understand the thinking behind it. I just need to know, what's the plan B? What's the plan B?
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, two things. One, I don't think a strategy of playing chicken is a good strategy, and that seems to be what they're doing. That's not a solution to the problem. And two, just to reiterate, underscore what Julie just said, there's a town to the south of us that's going to lose 28 employees by the end of this month because of the situation that's been created and forced. And it's a hot issue. It's an issue that people get really emotional about. And I think we're doing the right thing. We're approaching it from a regional context. We're doing an RFP, hoping they'll look at the options we have. And in the medium to long term, we'll have a solution. But I understand Julie's frustration. It is totally justified.
And it's not, it was sad because I got feedback from other town managers. They feel the same way, but they can't say it because they're afraid what their select boards will think. Or there's political fallout being as outspoken as a town manager, probably like me. One of my greatest gifts is I really don't care about political fallout. You didn't hire me to tell me what you want to hear. You hired me to tell you what you need to know. And you need to know we're in crisis. And we are trying, Waldoboro is trying to find their way out in a short term and a long term. But we've been asking for help. And I have an incredible staff of dedicated people who have been trying their best to come up with out-of-the-box solutions. Kyle, I didn't even ask Kyle, and the next day I had a punch list of things to do. I have Paul running EMS calls. I mean, we're all doing everything we can to support the EMS. And the only other thing I would say is only call the ambulance if you really need one. I mean, that's something everybody can do. And be more aware of what's around you. Lock your doors at night. Be cautious out there because you might have to wait for somebody to get there to help you.
2 weeks ago, it was me
2 weeks ago.
going to Maine Med.
Mhm. Can I share that for a minute? We had to turn down a transfer of a Waldoboro resident. We couldn't transport our own, thank you, but you're a prime example. We could not transport you to Maine Med. We typically, in the past, could have transported you to Maine Med. So, I mean, put a face on it. These are issues, they're real, we have to fix them. And it would be nice if we had a partner, or just clue us in on what's going to happen. Because I can't even blame people who are going to leave before the 29th because they've got to set up other jobs. So I really don't have till the 29th of October. I probably have 2 weeks before that because they've got a life to plan and families to support. So, and it's unfortunate some people don't have the voice that I have. I'm fortunate I have a select board that may or may not fire me, but I feel as a public servant, as a 36-year public servant, we need to be transparent and we need to be vocal about this. So that's where I'm at. And I just want to thank everybody in my public safety departments and all my departments for just pitching in and trying, and all the suggestions, and it's been eye-opening.
Anybody else get anything? We'll move on. 80 Gray update.
Max, you're up.
Oh, that's nice of you.
We're going to tag team this one.
You know it, I don't know, please.
So as you all know, we've been in negotiations with VO.
We're just fixing the camera, go ahead.
We've been in negotiations with VOA since the vote in June to come up with our, help me out here, Bob, option agreement. And one of the first things that they did was to conduct an structural engineering assessment of the current building.
Yep.
That structural assessment came back, and we had a meeting with VOA where they informed us that the veneer, I'm going to call it the veneer, the brick facing of the building has significant issues. And to put it in context, because I'm a more visual person, is that the brick veneer is not exactly stable. So think of what happened in Wiscasset where the brick came away from the building
and fell on the road essentially.
and fell on the sidewalk. That essentially is part of the issue with the building. In order to address that, it would be extremely, there's a vapor barrier issue, and then there's the mold that comes with encasing the building issue. There's some issues with encasing it, because that is an option they talked about. And then there is also the issue of some of the structural, I'm going to say renovation and additional structural reinforcement that would need to be done, that affects the ability of VOA to keep the building intact.
And if I can add on to it, I also have received word from the State Historic Preservation Office regarding the National Historic Tax Credits. Is that something you want me to add in now, or?
You can add that in.
So as part of the process, we submitted the letter to the state and said, this is the building we'd like to get the tax credits for. Is this something that can be done? And what I was essentially told by the individual from the state is that he understands that it does have a lot of local history to it. Unfortunately, a lot of the interior renovations that have already taken place when the Y took it over would disqualify it from being on the National Registry. So that was going to be a big pot that VOA was going to use. So the engineering report, plus that information I got from the state, is rather sad news.
It is, because one of the things that I think one of the things that they were excited about when VOA first came to us was preserving the building. I think one of the things that a lot of people supported VOA was the preservation of the building. And what we're now hearing is that that may not be financially
Feasible.
it might make that project for VOA preserving the building not feasible economically. That opens up the discussion of the town voted on not believing that the building would be preserved. And I think the select board now has to have conversation about how you would like to proceed. Obviously, my recommendation, and I think all of you would agree, that we should take it back to the voters. Again, timing is everything. That's not going to happen for the November ballot. You know, we've got, I think the state ballots might have come in today. I saw some boxes that I believe they came in today. So for us to, we couldn't add it electronically. We'd have to hand count them. We'd have to come up with questions. So November is out of the question for that. You could do a special meeting. What all this looks like, again, I think this is going to have some more conversation, but it definitely is a different scenario than what had been anticipated. Again, since we're in receipt of the engineering report, that is a public record. But like Max said, it is a little discouraging. And I know the VOA is very discouraged because that was one of the things that brought them to Waldoboro was the school.
Well, yeah, I just want to emphasize that it's not the engineer who's saying the building isn't viable.
Right.
The engineers made it very clear in their report that if VOA wanted to go ahead with the project they envision, they could use that building, but there's a lot of stuff they would have to do that nobody anticipated would become an issue. And as Julie explained, that becomes economic efficiency or inefficiency. And for them, and I respect them, it's really their architect that's making this point, that the economics aren't there when you have to do what needs to be done to the facade and parts of the interior to shore them up, to make sure that BOA isn't taking an unreasonable risk by occupying the building with their project. They're going to do it, they have to do it right. It has to be done to code. The building was built in 1936. The code was very different then than it is now. And so they face that situation. And I think they made it very clear that they're not comfortable keeping the building. Their recommendation is that it be demolished and that it be rebuilt using some of the materials of the original facade and maintaining, what was the term of phrase they used, Max?
Facade?
They used a
Reminiscent.
reminiscent, thank you, yes, that would be reminiscent of the old building, but would not be the old building. And we were all.
And that would be accomplished, the tear down could potentially be accomplished through brownfields monies.
Yep. So it wouldn't be something that.
A grant that we would not have to pay for.
Right.
Correct, it would be a grant.
But go ahead.
But it is, again, significantly different than the plan that the voters voted on.
Right.
And what I'll point out is that this was something that I think has been acknowledged many times from VOA as well as the town itself when these types of discussions came up. I think even a year ago when this first was on the ballot, that we need to give VOA a lot of time so their engineers and architects could even look at the building. And that was the point we even had that November vote. And then everything that happened between November and June.
I just want to point out, that is why we took our time.
Yep.
That is why we have the MOU.
And
That is why we were negotiating the option agreement. And these are the things we needed to know. And
we're not tied down. That's the other thing, right? We only have the MOU. There is no option agreements. We just have the MOU at this point.
right. But this was a very hot button issue, as everybody knows in town. And we're being totally transparent about the fact that this is what has transpired and how we move forward
I think the select board needs to take some, I think you all probably have some thoughts. But I just think we have to take some time and digest the news and proceed. There are time though, these are timely decisions because one of the things is brownfields and the application deadline ends in late October. So if we were going to go that route, at least we could start that process and make an application, but we don't have to accept the money if it's approved.
Right.
If our application were approved, we could say, well, we don't. And the select board's gonna have to determine, do you want to have a special town meeting? Do you wanna wait till June? You know, there's a lot of moving parts to this. So this is just, you know, trying to let the public know, hey, you have to re-engage again. Be aware this is going on. But I'm assuming some of you might have questions for me or Max, and we can try to address them. Or thoughts.
Go ahead, Bo.
So I guess DOA seems to be willing to bear with us on this.
I think they're willing to bear with us on this. I do. I think the select board has to set up some hard deadlines of, this is when we're putting the question on the ballot. These are the questions we're asking on the ballot. Do you want to proceed with the brownfields application, knowing full well that we can say no if we get it, but then you're further ahead. I'm sure there'll be people who come in and have different ideas of the different ways you should go. You know, we just have to be aware that if we're going to proceed down with the road with working with DOA, so that might be one of the questions on a ballot. And what should that look like? And when should that occur? There's a lot of moving parts to this.
Go ahead, Bo.
I personally would hate to lose the opportunity with DOA. I think it's reasonable to cooperate with them on submitting an application with the brownfield funding they have access to. It doesn't commit us to anything, but it does make the funding available if and when the voters decide it's something we should have access to. Not doing it is shooting ourselves in the foot. So I guess I would propose, at least as a start, that we proceed with them on that application, so that we at least have that part of it in place. Not making up our minds, it's just giving us an alternative we don't have now.
So my only question with that would be, since we only have a signed MOU, we don't have an option agreement, is that something that we should do without them?
The brownfield submission? I just meant for clarification. So so you're saying the town would submit the brownfield without Volunteers of America, or?
Correct. It would be a standalone application submitted by the town.
I think we ought to have an agreement with DOA that we're doing this together. I think that together we have a better chance of getting that funding than we do alone, and vice versa. I think they have a better chance of laying it up. We just have to have a clear understanding that if it's approved, it's not a commitment on our part or a commitment on their part to go ahead with the project. That really depends on how the voters think we should ultimately decide the issue. And maybe it's just an addendum to the memorandum of understanding. I don't know what documentation is needed for purposes of.
Well, you know, I think
Applying for the
that's
grant.
all the kind of stuff that Max and I are gonna have to work
Yeah.
on.
That's raising the issue.
I don't think, because the MOU was a non-binding document, so we
I
wouldn't
don't
have,
think we could, yeah.
don't think we'd be amending because the MOU is more of a guideline to the option agreement itself. And that option agreement, I don't remember the June vote too well. Yeah, it would have to go back to the town anyways for a vote, so I agree, there's no harm in just submitting a grant. And then we do have to be honest with them in the narrative. We do have to get the town to actually approve it, and then that's just a condition that if we do get it, we have to make sure the town does support it.
Correct.
So there is no harm in that.
Colonel, you got anything? Lots to take in. Jan?
I just think I think we have some time to do a little bit of research on the brownfield, and since they brought it up, that I think we can research and see which would work, which would be best for Waldeboro, which way would go. I think we can look into that. And it's just a sad situation for us and for VOA. It's something that wasn't anticipated, but they were quite upfront and let us know very shortly after they got the engineering report. And somehow I had believed that that an engineering report had already been done on that building. Well, that was disappointing to me to find out that it really hadn't.
Correct, because that was represented at one point that it had been done.
Right.
Not by the town,
No,
but yes, that was, because I think that's, if you heard over and over, even with the interested developer before, you kept hearing, and other parties that have been interested in the building, it has good bones. So I think that yes, I think
that was really disappointing to find out that, in fact, that had never been done. Seems crazy to me, but at least we found out.
well, but that again was the whole point of having the process.
Right.
So we're
We did
at this process. Like I said, that report is public record.
Yep.
So.
And safety, again, we're not going to do anything that is not safe for the public.
Will? Anything right now? Just process.
Yeah, I mean, I'm supportive of still trying for the grant. And it's not gonna hurt us at all. We're not bound to anything. But if the voters do decide to move ahead, we're actually one step ahead, so.
I agree with you. I don't have an issue with going after the grant. I think if we don't have it in place, we're foolish. Because if the voters do decide they still want a senior living facility in that location, then we already get the funding to move forward.
But knowing what we know
Right.
too now with that report, that safety issue exists.
Well, and the other thing I'll point out with the going forward with this, if the building does come down, being in the historic village district is what allows us to have that density so that the 32 units could be there. It also means they need to meet architectural standards, that it needs to look like it fits in that area, that it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. So that's something that VOA would still have to address anyways, even if, the residents to say, oh yeah, let's go forward with this. That's something I've told Volunteers America, I think before this meeting. I'll make sure they are reminded of it. I think I told them this maybe a year ago when we moved it to the historic village, but that's just the other point I wanted to make.
No matter what, and Paul, that was going to be my next.
Transition.
It's a safety issue, and we're going to have to fence it. It's got to be done.
You have to fence it in.
We're going to have to fence it so people can't walk up within the zone of. We can't sit here
Knowing that information.
knowing that
now.
information and not do it. So, we know it. We've got to take action to correct it.
I think the timeline too, I still think we should wait to June to get the majority of the voters that are gonna come out. Having a special meeting, I'm not really in favor of that. I mean, I know some people would like to get it moved forward a lot quicker, but we really need to have a representation of the town out to vote regardless, whether it jeopardizes VOA or not. I mean, I don't think they're going anywhere. They've got too much time invested into this to walk away. But if they walk away, they walk away. We start all over. So.
I agree. It's only fair to the residents.
Yep,
They get
absolutely.
enough time to think about it. So going forward.
That's my 2 cents. Anybody else? Anybody from the public?
I just want to make sure that I have the correct information about how the town is going to move forward. That the town is going to research the brownfield grant and bring this to the voters again. And in the meantime, now that you know that the building is that unsafe just for people walking by, you have to do something like.
We're gonna have to fence it.
Possibly fence it in.
No, we're going to have.
Going to have to definitely fence it.
Yeah, it's not an if.
That's not to imply there's imminent danger. It's prudent to do that.
Yeah.
The facade is not anchored to
The structure. Yeah.
it's
And that's
built
the
on a
issue.
ledge. It's been sitting there for 80+ years. But
As a result of Wiscasset and their issue.
yes, there's
I
always
mean,
that
that's
thought.
a reality.
Yeah.
Doesn't it make you wonder about other brick buildings, all other brick buildings?
Most of the brick buildings in Waldeboro, I think, have been redone. I can't think of any in Waldeboro that haven't, other than that's probably the only building left that's that age that's brick in town.
I don't know, but, I mean, that's just from a standpoint, we have to be proactive.
So I guess if nobody else has got any comments, does somebody want to make a motion to go for the grant? Or is it October, the end of October?
Well,
Okay.
I think Max and I, before any motions are
Okay.
made, I think maybe
Got the information on that.
I'm a month
We need
ahead.
to
I was
get-
thinking within
we
a
need
couple.
to get the, I think we need to get the particulars. I'd like the opportunity to talk to our attorney about this.
So you don't want us to make a motion or anything to give you the,
I would like to make a motion on this, but phrase it in such a way that we're not tying your hands,
Okay,
giving you the authority to proceed if everything looks right to you. So we're not wasting another couple of weeks between now and the deadline for submitting the application.
well, we'll have one more meeting before the
I
deadline.
won't be here.
Rapid won't be here, yeah.
Okay, but,
Which is fine. I mean,
I mean, we're not.
You know-
telling
you know my
to-
stance on it,
We're not
so-
telling you to do it. What
Okay.
we're suggesting is that we, and this is the motion, that we look into the grant, that we resolve the legal issues, we have discussions with the VOA about it, and that if it looks right, to initiate the process. We're not tying you down here.
okay. And you'll have one more bite at the apple because we'll have a meeting before the application deadline.
Yeah, but Captain, well, we can have you in the meeting on,
Zoom.
if you're available.
I won't be
Okay.
in cell phone or any range.
Got it, all right.
But again, you
I'll
do
be in
have a
the Northland
quorum.
Woods.
Yeah,
You have a quorum.
So-
yeah, for something that large, usually it is.
Can I
gonna be
go to Colorado too?
So that's the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? I guess you and Max have some more work to do, like you need more.
That's okay, right? This is why we're here. I have to tell you, as frustrating as the last few weeks have been, last week I celebrated my 36th year in local government. I am as passionate today as I was when I started as a starry-eyed kid.
There is absolutely no doubt about that. None whatsoever.
Passion is
Yep.
visible.
It is, and I know but I I'm passionate about things I believe in, and I am a believer in good governance, and I am a believer in preparation, and I see what the men and women in our public safety jobs do on a daily basis, and I say this all the time, they're everyday heroes. They're tired. They're tired, they're worried, and I'm just blessed I get to walk among them.
There's no old business, so is there any items for the agenda other than yours and Max's work on the brownfield?
No, not yet.
Does nobody else get anything? I guess she's got enough. Yeah, I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So move. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Good. We are done.